Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Third POV. Izuku had just finished some of his work and had gotten his outfit and changed for the training trip. He was a bit on edge due to the possibility of an attack. He walked through the halls in his outfit and arrived at 1A where he knocked on the door and was called in by Aizawa-sensei. Everyone looked at him in his hero outfit and was confused. Right on time. Class, get your outfits and get changed. Some of you might not want to take your outfits. We are doing a rescue training at the USJ. There will be 2 other teachers attending with me. Get changed and be at the bus in 5 minutes. Aizawa stated before he walked out with Izuku following him. Both of them were standing at the bus talking. Sensei, I want to warn you that Nizu has given me orders. If something happens, I've been ordered to act to defend the class before I can retreat. Their safety is above mine since I'm acting under Nizu's authority, since he is my work-study mentor currently, since I have my provisional license. I won't get involved unless I think I will be required to reveal myself as a provisional hero to the class, since we will have All Might with us. Izuku said, and Aizawa found this logical and reasonable. He was glad that he had another person to rely on, even though he hated the fact that his first-year student would have to risk himself so early if they faced troubles that they couldn't handle. The students all arrived at the bus and started to get on it. However, elsewhere in the city, pro-heroes Kamui Woods and MT Lady were dealing with a hostage situation. All Might had suddenly arrived and defeated the villain before he headed back towards UA. He was running late in coming in because he kept taking detours to deal with villains and do hero work. He didn't realize how him doing these detours would use up most of his time limit before his scheduled trip for the USJ, and it would make him regret so much. Back with Class 1A, they were all riding the bus, while everyone was talking more about each other's quirks. Sue had brought up the similarities of Izuku's quirk to All Might's again. Izuku just deflected the truth easily by talking about how he can enhance his body far more than he believes All Might can, and that he is also learning other aspects. I know I can stop myself from bleeding from minor wounds. I've done it before, so my quirk is different from his, but does have some similar things like the strength since I can enhance my body to that level, Izuku stated. Izuku wanted to be truthful, but also hide the real truth. As such, he included small parts of the truth with misdirections. Nizu's lessons are paying off, Izuku thought. They also talked about who would go on to becoming top-tier heroes based on quirks. They mentioned Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Kirishima also said something about he wished he had a flashier quirk, which Izuku declined. Kirishima, you could be an unbreakable shield if you train it hard enough. You could be a moving wall that defends people from attacks, which are very powerful, Izuku said, boosting his classmates' confidence. Soon they were getting close to the USJ and were starting to calm down on the conversations. They arrived on site and exited the bus, and Aizawa talked to the teacher on site and was told All Might would be late. The class was greeted by the famous rescue hero 13. Her greeting includes an introduction to her facility, the unforeseen simulation joint USJ, and a small speech about how the young students must use their quirks to save people rather than fight. This sent a look across Bakugo's face that Izuku caught. Seems he truly did come to regret what he did to me, Izuku thought as he listened to the speech. Soon though, 13's words were completely deterred when a large group of villains suddenly arrived through a black portal. A man with hands on his body and face came out of the portal first, followed by a large number of villains. The number of villains didn't concern Izuku. It was the new creature that the villains had brought. It was large and had a brain exposed. No way that is a living thing anymore. An experiment by villains? Though that implies they have a large source of funds to do the experiments, thought Izuku. He knew he needed more information. However, it seems the leader is a bit immature since he started to provide information without needing to be promoted. He started to complain about how All Might wasn't among the class. The guy talked to his fellow villain who had the Warp Gate quirk and complained that he was meant to be here per the schedule. Seems they did break in, and the Warp Gate was how they got inside the building. Though how did they know what room to go into? Thought Izuku, but he put that aside for now. Then Izuku and Eraserhead heard the villain mutter about wondering if the symbol of peace would come if they murdered some students. It was at that point Izuku decided to get their attention and hope Eraserhead would get the students out. Hey, hand freak! Izuku yelled out, grabbing everyone's attention. His classmates were confused and worried about why he was doing that. Ida and the others close to Izuku tried to get him to shut up, but Izuku wouldn't. You say you are here for the symbol of peace, but honestly, how do you think a bunch of low-level thugs have enough experience and powers to take the number one on? Izuku asked, hoping he would take the bait and provide information. The hand freak villain got pissed and did respond. I want to know. It's because we brought our weapon to kill All Might. This is the bioengineered weapon Nomu, which is the anti-symbol of peace, which has multiple quirks made to take the number one on and beat him in his prime. The handsman said. His fellow villain tried to keep him quiet, but the main villain just waved him off, saying they couldn't do anything since they had the Nomu. It was at that moment Izuku's blood went cold. Multiple quirks. That's impossible unless it's OFA or AFO. Shit. Is this a leftover from him, or is he still alive? Thought Izuku as his heart was now beating really fast. Even Tadakori's quirk isn't multiple, but two aspects combined into one. Izuku turned to Eraserhead, and his teacher knew that it was serious based on Izuku's face. Sensei, we need to get out of here now. This is a far bigger threat than we first thought. Izuku stated, and then Eraserhead started to force everyone to leave with 13, while he and Izuku had planned to stay and fight. The class was confused about why their teacher was forcing them to leave, but not Izuku. Ida run to the school right now and warn them. If you see Nizu or All Might, warn them that the forces of AFO are at the USJ. They will know what I mean by that message. Now go and don't stop. Izuku said as he threw Ida towards the door and went back to the steps. His friends tried to get him to come with them. Even Bakugo was calling him crazy. 13 was moving everyone towards the door. Even she was confused about why Eraserhead allowed a student to stay, but didn't argue against it since he was the combat hero and not her. The moment that they both jumped down the steps, the warp gate villain teleported in front of the class. However, Izuku had already thrown Ida at the door and made him leave before they jumped down. The warp gate saw the student go out the door the moment he arrived at the top and cursed. Damn, one already escaped, but no matter. You will all die here, he said as he tried to warp everyone. 13 jumped in front of the students and was ready to black hole the villain, but Kusahima and Bakugo attacked the villain but went through him. She then attempted to attack him, but the villain redirected the attack onto herself. She was down for the count as the villain warped everyone across the USJ. As such, this was the start of a bloody fight. Ida was running for help and prayed the class would make it long enough for him to return with help. All Might POV. I am so going to get chewed out by my son and Nizu. I pushed my limit to the max for the most part and have run out of time for the USJ. I only have about 30 minutes, which isn't enough for the entire thing. He attempted to call his son's phone and the teachers at USJ phones, but it wasn't going through, which he found odd. Nizu had arrived at that moment and had me sit down for a lecture about being late. You know Izuku will give you a disappointed stare again when he returns, Nizu stated, and I could only agree. Izuku POV. Damn it. The warp gate teleported everyone out of the building. I know Ida was already at the door before the villain got up there, so he should be running back already. I powered up to 100% and dashed off. I only used 30% when I was landing punches or kicks on people, but I was using 100% to move around at a blinding speed that people couldn't keep up with. Eraserhead was working on his portion of the villains as we made our way through them all. Soon, we were finishing up all the low-level villains, and the main one with the Nomu hasn't made a move yet. He just kept scratching at his neck. After about 2 more minutes of fighting the low levels and knocking them out, I saw Azui and Mineta come from the water area. It was at that moment that the Hands Man ordered the Nomu to attack. Noma kill the heroes. The creature blasted off at high speeds that rivaled my own at 70%. The Nomu was right above Eraserhead, and I moved my way into the blow and tanked it. Bang sounded out the shockwave. Sensei looked pale at the fact that I had just taken the hit for him. My feet went into the ground a bit as the ground cracked around us. Deal with the leader while I fight this. This thing can throw enough force to take you out in a hit. I groaned out at holding the Noma back. Third POV. The students from the entire USJ were making their way through their zones. From the shipwreck to the landslide zone, the students were all working together to defeat the low-level villains that were in their area. Some had already defeated their enemies and were working their way back to the main area. Bakugo and Kirishima were in the zone of the ruins fighting villains. Damn it, get out of my way. I want to get back to the damn entrance right now. Bakugo yelled out. He wanted to go see how Izuku was doing. He hasn't gotten to apologize to him yet, and didn't want something to happen to him before he could. Kirishima had noticed tense between his newer friend Bakugo and Yagi, and always wondered why. "Why are you in such a hurry?" he asked. Bakugo didn't speak for a few minutes before he answered. "I was a bully in the past. I never got to apologize to Mid-Yagi before he left. I was given a deal to correct my ways so my dream wouldn't be ruined of being a hero. He's the one that asked for mercy for all the students back then, and I've never gotten to apologize and start making it up to him since he left after his mother passed away. The criminal case came up a few months after that, and then I got into therapy and anger management and started to change. I won't be able to live with myself if I can't start making up for all the things I did to him, including all the scars I put on his body," Bakugo admitted. Kirishima paled a bit since he remembers the scars, but realized that Bakugo was actually wanting to be a better person, so he didn't pass judgment, yet since he didn't know everything, and Bakugo appeared to be trying to be better now. Soon they defeated the villains in their area and got moving. Them and other students all started to meet up near the entrance area and saw a horrifying sight. They found their teacher with wounds from the villain leader, and then also found Izuku Yagi fighting blow for blow against the large creature. They were creating large shockwaves that prevented anyone from getting close to them. Izuku POV. This damn Nomu was strong. It without a doubt could have taken Dad in his prime. I was doubtful it would have won with him in his prime, but right now it could kill Dad. I'm really concerned that AFO is somehow back to the living. However, I had to put that thought out of my mind currently, as I was going blow for blow with this creature. I could notice all the other students had arrived back at the starting area. The villain leader was fighting Sensei and had landed several blows with a decay quirk. It was at that moment I realized that he was the one that destroyed the gate. I saw Bakugo and Todoroki show up, and I yelled at them. "Bakugo and Todoroki, go help Sensei now. Don't get close to the villain since he has a 5-point contact decay quirk. Use range attacks to keep him back, and try to capture him in ice without his hands being able to touch the ice," I yelled out. Bakugo followed my order right away, which shocked me, but made me happy. Todoroki stalled for a bit, but relented when Bakugo called for him. I was doing 100% with all my blows, and was knocking the Noma back with each blow, but the thing had a damn shock absorption quirk. I even ripped an arm off, but it had regrown it back, which proved the multiple quirks. I knew I would need to go above my limits and go as fast as I could. I slowly increased the speed of my attacks, and was trying to beat the speed at which it could absorb. Soon though, the warp quirk user reappeared and started to get in my way. He kept creating portals that redirected my attacks or redirected the Nomus at me. This just complicated the situation. Soon though, help came. "Have no fear, I am here," yelled my dad as he broke the door down and didn't have a smile on his face. Flashback. All Might POV. I was finishing up the meeting with Nizu and had planned to arrive for the last part of the training to give words of encouragement when Ida had broken the door down quickly. I luckily was able to buff up before he noticed me. However, both my and Nizu's blood turned cold at his words. "Villain attack USJ. Yagi wanted a message passed. He said something about the forces of AFO at the USJ and said you would know what it meant. We need to hurry. They had 8 hour amount of villains, and they warped the class away around the place as I left the building," he yelled. My thoughts came to a standstill at the word AFO. No, he can't be alive. I thought. Then I ran out the door, spending my way to the USJ. "Hold on, son. Please, for the love of God, Ofa, don't let him die. If AFO is somehow back, please let it be some remaining men of his and not him himself," I thought as I ran quickly across the ground. I didn't care about my time limit. I wasn't going to let my son die. I knew he could defeat me in battle, but he lacks battle experience right now, and he shouldn't be fighting for his life this soon. After about 6 minutes of running, I arrived at the building and could hear the fighting inside. I blew right through the doors and yelled my line. "Have no fear, I am here," I yelled as I wasn't wearing a smile. I looked around and saw 13 down on the ground with some students around her. I saw Eraserhead injured and fighting one villain with 2 students. Then I saw all the other students making their way to the stairs. I then laid my eyes on my son, who was fighting some creature and was being attacked by what I assumed was the Warp Gate villain who got them all in here. I was pissed because I saw some blood across my son's face. Third POV. All Might moved quickly and knocked out any villains that were still up. He then grabbed all the students and moved them to the staircase. This included Bakugo and Todoroki. He had left Eraserhead down with the villain and then moved down there with him. Eraserhead and Deku, what's the situation? He stated as Izuku jumped back to be next to them. This confused everyone since All Might left Izuku Yagi down on the ground and called him Deku. Leader has a 5-point contact. Warp Gate user is the Mist guy, and the other creature is called a Nomu. It has multiple quirks. I've confirmed 2 at least. One is a regeneration that is really strong, and then a shock absorption. I'm also thinking it has strength quirks and speed quirks as well. Izuku stated. Eraserhead only agreed with the statement. Also, they claimed it could kill you and rival you in your prime, which I have to agree with. It was tanking my hits at 100%. I tried to go faster than it could take, but the warp user keeps stopping me from beating the creature. As such, I have a good guess it does have a limit which they didn't want me hitting. Izuku stated. All Might then thought of a plan. Okay, here what we will do. Deku will go for the Nomu. Eraserhead goes after the warp gate, so he can stop his gates. I will go for the decay user since I can use my speed to get around him and attack with blasts of air instead of direct contact. Whoever defeats their opponent first expects Eraserhead helps the others out. Eraserhead needs to keep the warp user contained even after he's out cold. All Might stated, and they got to work. Izuku was going 100% again at a faster rate on the Nomu while Eraserhead kept the warp user locked down and prevented warp gates from being used. All Might just used air blasts on the decay user, and after about a few minutes, All Might finished his opponent since he knocked him into a wall and appeared to knock him out. He then moved over to help his son, but saw that his son had finished when he blasted the creature out of the building. Izuku screamed out Tokyo Strike as he landed the final punch onto the Nomu and sent it flying. They both looked over to Eraserhead, who had already taken care of his opponent as well. However, they lost focus when everyone else arrived and Ida screamed that they were there. Eraserhead took his eye off the warp user for a single second before he looked back, and the warp user was gone with the other villain leader. Damn it! I looked away for a single second, and he already warped. He yelled out pissed that the leaders of the attack had gotten away. This brought the USJ attack to an end. Third POV. The class and teachers were all leaving the USJ. They were all checked out and Eraserhead was sent to Recovery Girl. Izuku only had a light cut across his head and had it cleaned up on site. He told the medics that he would go to Recovery Girl later. As such, all the students were transported back to campus, while Izuku stayed behind to talk to Nizu. Nizu, we need to have a meeting with the detective. He needs to start searching for who since I'm confident it's him. Izuku said as he walked up to Nizu. Toshi was already sent back to campus since he ran out of time. He was with Eraserhead while they waited for Nizu and Izuku to return. Nizu was a bit scared if AFO did return. It meant so many dangers and unknown factors that normal villains didn't have. Soon after giving orders out to his staff and talking to the police, Nizu and Izuku headed back to the school to talk to Toshi and the detective who was taking student statements. After a bit of a drive, they arrived and entered the nurse's office. Eraserhead had already left to the homeroom to talk to the students since he was healed for the most part. He didn't take much damage except some decay across his arm. They found Toshi in the room as Izuku walked up to him and hugged him. I'm so sorry, son. I wasted my time, and you were forced into a life and death fight because I wasn't there to deal with it, Toshi stated as he hugged Izuku. Izuku just told him to not waste his time again, but didn't blame him for the USJ. Luckily, I was on site, or we might have had people dead if they didn't have someone to fight the Nomu. Izuku said. He really didn't want to think about AFO being alive, but they had to act as if he was. Dad, he's alive. The Nomu shouldn't be possible. It might be an old creature he made, but we need to act and assume that he is alive and running around behind the scenes. I'm a bit scared, Izuku said as a tear went down his face. He didn't think he would be fighting a 200-year-old monster that has killed everyone before him and his dad. No matter what, I won't let him get you. I will die before I let him get to you. Do you understand me? Toshi stated as he hugged Izuku. Soon the detective came in and got their statements. He was also afraid of the fact that AFO might have returned. Nizu, I'm going to stop by the class before the staff meeting. I would like to join it if you would let me since this involves AFO. I know I need to answer some questions for the class, but I'm going to keep a lot of things hidden still. They don't need to get involved in the AFO stuff. Izuku said. Nizu approved of this and said the meeting would be in about 15 minutes, so he needed to hurry. Soon Izuku found himself in front of his class, and he could hear his teacher talking to some of them. He opened the door and saw that they all stared at him. "No need to stare. I'm not going anywhere," Izuku stated. Izuku POV. As I wandered into the classroom, Aizawa just went into his sleeping bag and told me to take over answering their questions since I seemed to know a lot of what's going on. "So questions?" I asked. Hands went flying up. I pointed to Azui and she asked why their teacher didn't try to force him to leave. "Oh, I request you keep this silent, but I have a provisional license already." There were many reasons, but Nizu recommended me for the exam before I came to UA. "I got it in the middle of my last middle school year," I stated. A lot of them were shocked at this statement. Todoroki raised his hand and asked a question. "Why did All Might call you Dekairu?" I answered that it was my hero's name. My hero name is Hero of Grace, Dekairu. As such, if I'm in my suit you can call me by my hero name since I got my license, I stated. Some asked what I meant by my message to All Might and Nizu that I gave Ida. I'm going to decline at answering that one. I will tell you this right now. No good will come from looking into that message. Only death awaits those that do. So don't get involved in something you will regret later on, I stated with a cold tone. Some looked freaked out at my meaning. Bakugo raised his hand. You seem really close to All Might. Why? He asked. Damn it. I guess I will reveal it here. Let me make a call real quick, I stated. I pulled my phone and texted Nizu about revealing All Might as my father. He said he was on his way. Soon about 2 minutes later, Nizu came in. Okay, students. Here are NDAs you need to sign if you want any more answers from us about Izuku. If you don't want to sign, leave the room now. If you want more answers, then sign it. Nizu said. They all took a moment to read them and sign them. Now remember, if you reveal anything, you will be arrested and expelled, and we will come after everything you and your family owns, Nizu said with a cheerful smile. He waited as I answered them since he checked them for all and showed that they all signed. Okay, to be truthful, Bakugo, you all know my mother died during my first year of middle school. What isn't known is that roughly before middle school, I had met a man by the name of Toshinori Yagi, who works at the All Might Agency. He helped train me in physical conditioning since I had plans to be a quirkless hero, and we grew close to each other. Later on, my quirk activated, and All Might helped train my quirk since my quirk showed some similarities to his, as Tsu pointed out before. All Might knew I wanted to go to UA, so we became close via our training for me being a hero. He also got involved in my discrimination cases against my old schools because I was still quirkless at the time before my quirk came in. They also brought in a police detective and Nizu who loves to destroy schools like my old ones. Soon Nizu took me on as a personal student as well after the school case. That is why All Might is close to me since I know him via my adoptive father who works at Might Tower. I won't be surprised if you see my father in UA since he does a lot of communication for UA and the Might Tower agency since All Might now lives here and not in Tokyo anymore, I stated. Nizu just had a smile on his face at my truth without lying since none of what I said was a lie. It was 100% truth. I just didn't state that I knew All Might because he is my father and owns Might Tower. God, the lessons with Nizu on manipulation worked so well, I thought. The class was shocked. Bakugo was even more shocked that I had made such connections. He always wondered where I went after my mother died, but now he knew most of the truth. Soon they asked a few more questions before Nizu cut us off. Sorry to stop you here. However, we have a staff meeting and Izuku is needed in it since he was in the main fight and does work for me as an analysis, which I believe he has told you all already. As such, you are all free to go home for the day. Classes will be canceled for the rest of the week. See you all Monday, Nizu said as he got on my shoulder and we left the room. Third POV. The main staff for the first years could be found in a meeting room with the detective going over the reports from the incident. Izuku was also in the room since he was a part of the chaos. Gran Tornio had already received a phone call from Nizu the moment Izuku had Ida pass the message on. As such, he was also at the meeting with the staff to who he was introduced. Our theory of them attacking was correct. Luckily, Izuku was on site and was able to fight and defeat the Nomu, which was made to kill All Might, Nizu stated. The other staff looked skeptical of a creature that could kill All Might being dealt with by a student since they didn't know about his strength or that he has a provisional license. I see some skeptical faces. Let me be clear that we can trust my son's words that if he says it could kill me, then it could. Remember, my son is stronger than me, and we still haven't found all the aspects of his quirk either. My son had to go 100% of his strength enchantment, which is about 10% stronger than my quirk currently," stated All Might. Then Nizu informed everyone that Izuku had a provisional license as well, which just testified to his level of skill since he had obtained it before UA. Soon the meeting carried on and the other staff left. It was now time to talk about AFO. Gran Torino started to speak. "How sure are we that it's him?" he asked, a bit worried and pissed. "We will know 100% when the police do DNA testing. It's a bioengineered weapon based on what the villains said. If any DNA comes back from recent missing person cases or recent missing villains, then it confirms that it's AFO, since he is the only one we know of that can do multiple quirks into people," Izuku said. The people in the room just didn't talk for a few moments. Izuku then decided to bring up the other matter. "Detective, please come here for a second," Izuku said as he moved to a corner of the room. He then explained his theory, and the detective froze. "I want you to question each of us in the room right now. We need to know everyone here is clear. I'm not suspecting or saying any of us are, but just to be safe. Ask each of us," Izuku stated, and then returned to his seat. Nizu and the others were confused. They had moved far enough that it was just right out of Nizu's hearing as well. Soon the detective walked over with a bit of a pale face. "Are you sure, Izuku?" he asked. Izuku just nodded his head. "We need to be safe with those in the room so we can look into others," Izuku said, and then Nizu had an idea since he had that theory in his mind. "Everyone is to answer my question one at a time. Starting with you, Izuku. Are you an agent or working for anyone associated with All for One or any villains? Yes or no?" the detective asks. All Might and Gran Torino looked pissed at the question and moved to say something, but Izuku said no. "Truth. All Might, your turn, yes or no to my question," the detective asked. "Please answer the question. I will explain after we all answer," Izuku asked. Soon they all went through it, and it all came back as truth. "Good. Nizu, I'm sure you know my current theory," Izuku said. "I'm assuming you think we have a mole. Please explain your theory, sign. I do have the same theory currently," Nizu asked. Izuku then explained how the villains got into the building. They used the warp quirk user named Kirojiri to get inside, but from what I can tell it requires coordinates or eyesight to do the teleporting, based on the information we got currently. As such, how did they know which room to go into without walking the hallways, which would be seen on cameras? They needed the schedule, which they confirmed at the USJ that they had gotten, meaning either a mole gave it to them or a mole gave them the location of the room to get it. It would be easier to give the location since they could plan the attack another day instead of the mole getting the document and handing it off, which would be seen for them going into the room, Izuku said. Everyone realized how serious this was. They had a mole in UA, and they didn't know who it was. I would like the detective to ask each teacher the question in private, which you can force them to answer, Nizu. This way we can clear the staff. I, however, think it's a student, but want to be safe on the teachers. Izuku asked of Nizu, who agreed to the request since he wanted to be 100% sure of his staff, as well to protect information. They talked a bit longer before Toshi received a phone call. It's Sir Nightai. I know what he likely wants to talk about. He told me a bit ago, around 10 months before UA started, that he found a successor, but I tried to object to him doing that. All he said was he found a third-year student named Muro Togata who he's been training since he was a second year that would be a fit and wanted me to meet them. I objected to him finding me a successor without me asking him to, and ended the call. I forgot to mention I already had one for years now since I was annoyed at what he did, Toshi stated. Remember, Izuku has had OFA for about 3.5 years now or so. This means he had it before Sir Nightai even found Muro, who wasn't even in UA, before Izuku got OFA. Muro would have just graduated middle school when Izuku got OFA and hadn't even taken the UA exam yet. This will be a point in the story later on. Toshi just answered and turned it on speaker since everyone here knew about OFA, and he didn't want to hide anything from his son. Hello, Mirai, Toshi asked. I saw the news and just wanted to check in on you since I know you hit your limit based on news from earlier in the day. Sir Nightai asked, which was a good start. I'm fine. I didn't push myself too much. I was able to arrive with the staff shortly behind me. No student was harmed and heroes on site only received light injuries that Recovery Girl was able to heal, Toshi stated. Then came the next point which no one wanted him talking about. Toshinori, would you please consider meeting with Muro and consider looking at him as a candidate for OFA? You are running out of time and haven't found anyone, Sir Nightai stated. Mirai, I can't. I meant to say it last time, but I got annoyed that you looked for someone without me asking. Mirai, I found the 9th user already and gave them OFA. I no longer have OFA to give, so there is no point in me meeting Mirio. Toshi stated. It was silence from the phone. Why didn't you meet Mirio first before you decided to give it? I'm sure Mirio is far better than whoever you found. Mirai stated. This just annoyed Toshi to no ends that he just stated that his son wasn't worthy. He doesn't even know that OFA itself truly picks the next wielder. That's why he's always wanted to find the person himself, as his master said to Since. She had a hard time describing how it picked him. She told him it was just a feeling that you would know that you found the next user. Toshi was silent. He didn't know what to say. Gran Torino, on the other hand, knew what to say. He grabbed the phone and started to talk. Mirai, it's Gran. Toshi is a bit shell-shocked that you just insulted him and his successor like that, so he is rebooting at the moment. I'm sure he's going to yell at you in a few moments, though. Let me make something clear, though. It doesn't matter that you found someone. It was Toshi's duty to find the 9th user and not yours. You had no right to go find someone to become the 9th. You've overstepped on what was your business. Gran Torino stated, and by this time Toshi was done rebooting and looked pissed. He took the phone back and just said, I don't care what you think of my choice. It was my job to find the 9th. I have found them, and it's their quirk now. The discussion is over. Toshi said as he hanged up the phone as he was about to throw it against the wall, but Izuku grabbed it out of the air when he threw it. Don't destroy the phone. We got pictures on it that we haven't transferred. Izuku whined out and pouted. Toshi just laughed at his son and hugged him. Sorry for what he said. I am glad I found you as my son and as the 9th user. Toshi said as he was still hugging Izuku, who hugged back. Nisa did make a comment, though. You know, he would likely give up if you said you gave OFA up years ago before he even found Mirio. Nisa stated. We all just froze at that thought. Welp, too late now, and I don't want to meet him anyway. Which I feel like he would want to do. If he asks anyone, please only tell him basic and don't even clue him in that I'm a current student if possible. I don't want to deal with him. Izuku said. Soon they finished the meeting up, and they all went home for the day since they would all be back to the school to do work. Even Izuku was going to return to do work for the case and his analysis papers since he was close to being done. Third POV. Izuku was working in his office over the days that the classes were dismissed. He had finished the papers and had given them to Nizu. He also finished some for the general studies students that Nizu recommended. Nizu said he would ensure that it was given to the students when class starts back up. They will be told that it is from an analysis who was training at the school and did some practice-off videos from the entrance exam, and that they got picked to receive one and were approved and cleared by the school for its valid information. This way they could see if the student applies any of the knowledge from the papers as well, and will be able to see how determined they are to get into the hero course. The day for classes to restart has arrived. As such, it was time for all the students to return as well. The students of 1A were still amazed at the level of power Izuku has and the fact that he has a provisional license already. Their homeroom teacher walked in and talked to them about the upcoming event. Some asked if it was smart to hold the festival so soon after the USJ attack. Aizawa-sensei just said it was a decision by the board of directors. Something about showing strength and that we weren't fearful of them. Bullshit. It's more about the money they earned from that event. The students would have some trauma from the event, so the showing strength and not fearful thing is bullshit. Izuku thought. Soon Aizawa finished talking and Izuku decided he wanted to head to his office early to get to work on some things, and he also had a request for Nizu. Aizawa-sensei, mind if I head to my office early since you don't have anything else for us? I got some stuff to work on for Nizu. I asked him and he just approved it. I said later to everyone else and that I would see them around lunch. As I dropped my stuff at my office, I then headed over to Nizu's with the tablet. I've noticed a trend in a villain's path and wanted to attempt to stop them. However, getting approved for this may prove troublesome. I knocked on Nizu's door and he let me in. Hello, Izuku. What can I do for you? He asked. Well, several things. I finished all the analysis and you have them correct? I asked and he nodded and said they will be given out at the end of the day for all of the students. Then here came the important question. I don't want to take part in the festival. Multiple reasons for this. First, is I'm doing a work study with you and I plan to ask Dad to do a work study at his agency since we plan for me to take it over in the future. Though I know Sir Nightai would find out about me like that, though I'm willing to give that up. The third reason is I want approval to hunt down a villain, which I've figured out their trend for, and I want to do it during the sports festival. I stated. He then agreed with most of my reasons, and then asked what villain it was. The hero killer, Stain, I said, and he looked like he was about to drop his teacup for a second. He looked at me and asked if I was kidding. I'm not. I want to put a stop to him. He's going around killing heroes and making them martyrs. I agree with some of his views, but his method isn't the correct way. Also, with the League of Villains on the rise with AFO behind them, we need to stop Stain from growing more powerful with the people. I stated to him, and he couldn't really disagree with me. I would ask Gran Torino do come with me and hunt him down since he would be fast-moving and could likely stay out of Stain's attacks. However, this would be done under your work study. As such, I need your approval. I asked him. He then called All Might to come to the office, and when he got there, Nizu then called Gran Torino. Hello, everyone. I'm here with all of you since Izuku has a really big request, and I want all of your views. Gran Torino, you would be involved as a mentor on the field and would help directly with this. Izuku wants to skip the sports festival, which I'm willing to agree with easily since he works under me and would work under All Might later on at his agency. The problem is the villain he wants to hunt down is Stain the hero killer. He's figured out his pattern and wants to stop him so the league can't use it to grow stronger, and he wants you, Gran Torino, to come to join him on the field and help stop Stain. Nizu said, and Toshi looked shocked at his son's request. Gran Torino asked Izuku how strong he felt that he could take Stain. Izuku said he felt he had a 70% chance at winning based on the information they currently had and felt their chances were 80% if Gran Torino came. Toshi then talked. I really don't like this, but you are going to have to stand as the symbol that holds the society up. As such, if you feel like you can do it, then I'll support you. If you feel like it's going south, then run away. I'd rather you fail at stopping him than be dead at his hands. Toshi stated. Soon it was agreed on the actions that would happen. Dikairu was going to hunt down Stain the hero killer. Time skip. Izuku worked on his plans a bit more in his office and was talking to Gran Torino on the phone, who was going to come down to them and train with Izuku a bit more to make sure they were both ready and could work around each other on the field since one mistake meant they both would die. Izuku informed Gran Torino about his suspicions on Stain's quirk. I think it's some sort of quirk that can paralyze others. It's either he has to cut you and he has to do something after that to activate his quirk, or something with blood since he would get blood from the cuts. This is due to the sword wounds on the previous people and then the final kill cut. It shows not much resistance to being killed, which is fishy since some of the cuts wouldn't be enough to take the heroes out unit the final kill cut. Izuku stated his thinking to Gran Torino on the phone since he was riding the train to UA. Gran Torino found them great theories, and they could be more careful on the field with knowing this information. Soon Izuku finished his work in his office and went to the classroom since he wanted to spend lunch with the class today, since he would be spending a lot of time preparing for the mission. Izuku arrived to find a lot of students standing outside the classroom door. He listened in and found the students were issues a declaration of war to the class. The student that issued the declaration of war was a kid with purple hair, and Izuku realized it was Hitoshi Shinso. He started to talk about how if students from other courses do good enough in the festival, then they can be moved into the hero course. As such, Hitoshi Shinso declared war on Class 1A. Then a student from 1B came and claimed he wanted to see the class that defeated real villains, and said some things like 1A was condescending brats, because Bakugo had said that if they wanted their spots, then they needed to prove themselves, which wasn't really condescending of him compared to his past self. Soon the students left, and Izuku walked up to the classroom. Hello, you all want to eat together today? Izuku asked everyone, and they all agreed, even Bakugo. Soon they were eating lunch and were talking about their plans for training for the festival. Some even asked Izuku what his training plans were. Oh, I'm training with a pro hero who used to work here. However, it's not for the festival. I won't be in the festival since I'm going out on a mission the few days before and during the festival with the aim to capture a villain. Izuku stated, and this caught everyone's attention. They asked how he would do internships if he didn't do the festival, and Izuku had to stop himself from laughing. Remember, I have my provisional license, so I'm already doing a work study with Nizu. Also, if I really needed someone to work with, I could ask All Might to refer me to someone's agency. The hero I'm training with will come on the mission with me, and we will be training to ensure we don't die since the villain is very deadly. Izuku said, and the others wanted to know who the villain was, but Izuku wouldn't say. Soon the weeks passed, and Izuku saw that the students had gotten the papers that he did. He even watched some videos that showed Hitoshi Shinso training in one of the gyms and were looking at the paper that he had gotten as well. Izuku was happy that everyone was using the papers. Izuku still was annoyed currently with Todoroki since he wasn't using his fire side. As such, Izuku went and found him before he left school to go on the mission. "Todoroki, can we talk for a second?" Izuku asked. They talked for a bit, and Izuku brought up the topic he wanted to talk about. "Todoroki, I don't know everything about you, but I wanted to ask why you don't use the fire side of your quirk," Izuku asked, and Todoroki's face went cold quickly. He then talked about how he would never use that bastard's quirk. Izuku had a general idea of what he was talking about. Todoroki then also talked about his past since he felt Izuku was for some reason similar to him. Izuku then explained his past and what's happened to him. If you let them control you, then they win. By denying the fire side, you are still giving him control over you. The quirk doesn't work at his command, but yours. The ice isn't your mother's, nor is the fire his. It's your own power. If I allowed myself to be controlled by the actions of my tormentors and abusers, I would have killed myself already due to the abuse mentally and physically. The pain doesn't stop at the physical level with the scars, but goes to the mental ones as well," Izuku stated. Todoroki looked like he was considering the words. Izuku pushed forward a bit more. "Let me ask you, is he wanting you to use your fire side, and that's it? Or is he really after turning you into a new version of himself? Then ask yourself, isn't he winning? Your actions so far have started to replicate him. If you find a person you need to save and you need to use your fire, but won't due to this pact against your father, aren't you just like him?" Izuku said, and Todoroki looked like he wanted to deny it, but he froze. Izuku knew that he had Todoroki really considering his words at that point. He doesn't care about saving people, but being the best, and taking number one from All Might. Isn't that what you're doing right now? You are putting the saving aside and aiming to be the best with only your fire side. Just think about my words, and consider visiting your mother since I doubt she hates you as you think. Trust me, you will regret not visiting her if she were to die suddenly. I know the feeling of that loss so well since my mother died out of the blue and I didn't get to spend more time with her like I wanted to. I only had about 2 weeks to spend with her after we found out about her pending death," Izuku said, and Todoroki's eyes widened at the last part. Izuku then walked away without Todoroki being able to talk. It was now time for Izuku and Gran Torino to pack their things and spend the next few days in Hosu tracking down Stain, who had 2 more targets to go after before he left for a new city. So, this was the end of part 6 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.